In this video, we're going to look at how to take a word problem and translate it into an equation or an inequality that says the same thing as the word problem, but it's just written in math language. So let's take a look at this first example. It says at one point during the summer, Marcia had read 500 pages for her summer reading assignment, and Jan had read 460 pages. Marcia read 20 pages per week for the remainder of the summer, and Jan read 30 pages per week for the remainder of the summer. How many weeks, W, did it take before the girls had the same number of pages? So again, what we want to do is not figure out what W is. What we're being asked to do, I know it sounds here like we're being asked to figure out W, but in this case, we're focused on just writing the equation that would represent this situation. So the way that I typically go about doing this is I go back to the question first, and it says here, how many weeks, W, did it take before the girls had the same number of pages? Key word there being same. Same tells me it's an equation and it's an equal sign, because if I want 4 to be the same as another number, really the only other thing I can have there is 4, right? 4 has to equal 4. And so that represents an equation for me. And so I'm going to come up with a plan, and I'm just going to kind of jot down in basic words what my plan is. My plan is to have the girls having the same number of pages. So in other words, for Marcia, for her amount of pages read to equal the amount of pages read for Jan. And so that's going to be my plan. On the left side, I'm going to have Marcia's stuff. On the right side, I'm going to have Jan's. Does it really matter? No, because with an equal sign, the things are equal. It doesn't matter which one's on the left or the right, but that's just one way we can set it up. So now let's go back and think about what we know about Marcia. We know she had already read 500 pages. So that's like a constant. That's something that was already done. Okay, nothing's going to change for that amount right now. But later it does tell us that in order for her to continue and try and finish the book, she's going to read 20 pages per week. So I don't know how many of those 20 she's going to do, because I don't know how many weeks, but I do know it's going to be 20 each of those times. So that is what gets my variable, because first of all, weeks is what matches the 20, which is my variable here in the question, weeks. And then also, like I said, that's what's changing over and over, kind of like that slope. That's what's going to go with our variable here, the change that's occurring. And so she's going to do 20 per week plus the 500 that she already had, right? That's how we would get a total. And so that's why we're going to use adding. And that should equal Jan's. Well, what do we know about Jan? Well, we know that she's not going to read 20 pages per week. She's going to read 30. That's probably because she hadn't read as many as Marcia to begin with, right? So Jan is going to be 30 W, and then plus her 460 that she had done at the start. Okay, and so that's the equation that would match or represent this problem. Now, if you're looking at answer choices for something like this, would it be okay to have or pick an answer choice that has 30W plus the 460 equals 20W plus 500? Absolutely. We need to again remember that these two sides are the same. So it doesn't matter really which one I put on the left or the right. The point is that the 20 is what's changing over and over, so that goes with the variable, and the 500 is the constant. Same concept with the 30 and the 460. Okay, so either of those would be accurate. You could even switch these. It could be 500 first and then plus 20W. That doesn't matter either. Order and adding doesn't matter. All right, let's look at a second example so we can talk about an inequality statement. So Cami and George, or Jorge, each begin saving money for a new computer. Cami saves $5 per week plus 50 she received for her birthday. Jorge saves $7 per week. I guess he didn't have any other money recently that he got. Find W, the number of weeks until Jorge has saved at least the same amount. Now I know that word same is in there, but more importantly, what comes before that is at least the same. So that's saying more than what we had up here. Up here it said we wanted to know when they were exactly the same, like, they've both read 800 pages. There's no other way of looking at it. Here, we're saying at least the same. So we could have an answer that is more than Cammy's because that's at least or higher, right? So in other words, we need to realize that at least means greater than or equal to. And that's going to be something that's important for you to recognize when you're looking at these word problems is those keywords to help you know what symbol. Okay, and our greater than or equal to symbol, let me show you here, just so we can remember. Need to pull it up here. Is this one, okay? It's greater than or equal to. Some students like to say the open part of what looks like a little arrow tip here is always going to be facing the greater number. And so that's why we read this one as greater than, because we go from left to right. So this would be the greater value. So greater than or equal to, because if he's saved at least the same amount as Cami, it can be exactly the same. But again, it could be more. So that's what tells me this time it's going to be an inequality. Now again, we want to come up with a plan though. And so we want Jorge's amount, go back to your question, Jorge's amount to be at least the same as Cami. So Jorge's amount saved needs to be greater than or equal to Cami's. And it shouldn't have been typing in there. Forgot to arrow out. Okay. So now we just need to go and put in the information we know for both of them. So Jorge, what do we know about him? Well, we know that he's saving $7 per week. So we don't know the number of weeks, but he's doing that however many times. So that's going to be 7W, right? Because if I knew how many weeks he did that for, I could just multiply those together to get a quick answer. So 7W is going to have to be greater than or equal to, and what do we know about Cami? Well, we know she's only saving $5 per week, and that's because she started with that 50 that she already had. Okay, and so that's what our inequality would actually end up looking like. Some students, get a little confused. What if I don't see that exact thing as an answer choice? What if I see this stuff here, the 5W plus 50? What if I see Cami's information on the left? And then I see Jorge's information on the right. What inequality symbol should be there so that it's the same as this statement? What's important to notice is, again, which way or direction this little thing is faced. Notice that the 7W, the Jorge's part, that's what we want to be greater. So the opening of this needs to be facing the 7W. So that needs to stay the same. So in order for it to be facing the 7W here, that means I actually need to insert a less than or equal to here. And that should make sense to you, because if Jorge's is greater than Cami's, then I can also say Cami's is less. Doesn't that make sense? Jorge's is greater than Cami's. Isn't that the same thing as saying Cami's is less than Jorge's? Right? It's the same, just a different way of looking at it. And so these two are the same, it's just switched around. And so that will help you kind of understand how to pick out answer choices when it's not written exactly the way you would have wanted it to, based on the problem. Okay, just make sure you're very careful when you're switching things around and you keep the symbol kind of facing the one that it needs to be facing. Okay, whichever way you want to look at it. Hope this helped you out, and go ahead and try the practice problem, and then you'll be ready for your retest questions.